Dusting dreams. The manufactured lavender tang of the cleaning fluid, the scent Maria usually welcomed, now clung to the air like a shroud. She wiped the bedside table in 302, her thoughts snagged on an image, de zoot zond, the sweetest sin, flaunting pyramids of cream puffs, each a snowy peak behind gleaming glass. A sigh escaped her, swallowed by the distant drone of a vacuum. De zoot zond was a distant kingdom of sugar, while her own ambition, Maria's muffins, was a humble aspiration, a sun-drenched haven perfumed with cinnamon and rising dough. She pictured children with flour-dusted cheeks, seniors exchanging stories over steaming mugs and warm slices of pie. With a shake of her head, she dragged herself back to the grind. The stained fabrics, the demanding clientele, the stingy wages and aching souls. Tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear, she attacked a stubborn ring on the wood. A sharp knock fractured the silence. "Housekeeping!" A gruff voice barked before she could respond. In the hall stood Mr. Vandergelt, a regular whose fastidious nature was surpassed only by his grievances. He was a study in angles and shadows, gaunt, hawk-nosed, his eyes drilling into her. The impeccable cut of his suit couldn't disguise the weary stoop of his shoulders. "Room 412, he declared, his words sharp and precise. "Reported ready. It is deficient." Maria's spirits plummeted. She deliberately skipped that room. Its previous occupants had clearly thrown a raucous party. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Vandergelt. I was just finishing here. I can check immediately." He remained planted, an obstacle. A faint mustiness pervades the carpet. The curtains lack crispness, and I observed a blemish upon the bathroom mirror. His gaze swept over her, a silent assessment. "Frankly, standards here have declined." Maria's throat tightened. "I'll see to it at once, sir. I assure you, everything will be to your satisfaction." He finally relented, stepping aside. "See that it is. I brook no less." He punctuated his pronouncement with a dry cough, then retreated into the room. Inside 412, Maria sighed. He wasn't exaggerating. Champagne flutes littered the floor like fallen soldiers. A congealed platter of canapes sat forlornly on the table. A tacky residue coated everything. She offered a silent plea for stamina and plunged in. 2 hours later, she paused, surveying her transformation. The floor was pristine, the surfaces gleamed, the bathroom sparkled. Even the atmosphere felt cleansed, reinvigorated. She'd poured her very essence into converting the space from a wreck into a peaceful retreat. She had even swapped the standard toiletries for a small cache of fragrant soaps and lotions, a secret, tiny flourish of indulgence. Her gaze drifted to the glass jar tucked inside her cleaning cart. Half full of crumpled bills and jingling change, it represented the seed money for Maria's muffins. She lifted it, its weight a solid reminder of her ambition, but felt paltry. After Mr. Vandergelt and the relentless slog of cleaning up after strangers, the dream seemed impossibly distant. She shook the jar gently, the chink of coins echoing in the quiet. Decades, perhaps, to amass the capital for her own cafe. Decades of toilet bowls and complaints. Decades of dusting off her aspirations. A wave of discouragement rolled over her. Was it a fool's errand? Should she accept her fate, embrace the mundane? Was Maria's muffins no more than a fanciful notion, a childish whim she needed to abandon? She returned the jar to the cart, the sound this time resembling a death rattle. Leaving the room, she couldn't shake the sense of leaving a part of herself behind, a delicate flicker of hope slowly being extinguished by the weight of reality. A call from Amsterdam. The phone on Mr. Vandergelt's desk blared, an abrasive electronic screech cutting through the morning quiet. He snatched the receiver, snapping, "Vandergelt." A rapid-fire volley of Dutch assaulted his ear. His brow furrowed. Ja, understand, in beach," he stammered, shifting the phone. The Dutch continued, a swift current tinged with worry. He raked a hand through his thinning hair, leaving it standing in disarray. "Langzaam. Slowly, please. My Dutch is failing me." He winced, his shoulders sagging. He echoed a few phrases, his pronunciation butchered to the point that Maria, meticulously polishing a nearby credenza, visibly cringed. Another burst of Dutch, higher in pitch now, held a distinct note of exasperation. "Look," Vandergelt barked, switching to English. "I am swamped. I'll ring you back." The voice on the other end, now more agitated than ever, unleashed a torrent of Dutch, ending in a sharply inquisitive inflection. Vandergelt sighed, a sound of utter capitulation. "No, I don't understand. Just get Peter to call." He slammed the phone down, the plastic echoing on the gleaming surface. He glowered at the instrument as if it were a troublesome adversary. Maria, her pulse quickening, continued her dusting, pretending not to notice. She longed to vanish, to become one with the shadows. The fragments of Dutch she had caught hinted at distressing news. The voice, warm and imbued with heartfelt concern, sounded like an elderly relative, perhaps a grandmother. He lifted the phone again, paused, then let it fall back into its cradle. A string of muttered frustrations escaped his lips. He massaged his temples, his face a roadmap of anxiety. Maria couldn't restrain herself. She took a tentative step forward. "Mr. Vandergelt," she ventured, her voice a mere thread. "Perhaps I could be of assistance." He looked up, startled, as though he had forgotten her presence. His eyes, usually keen and judgmental, were now glazed with weariness and an unfamiliar vulnerability. "Help? You? Doing what precisely?" "Making my already immaculate furniture disappear through excessive polishing." A blush crept up her neck, staining her cheeks crimson. I overheard the Dutch. My mother's from Amsterdam. I am fluent." She swallowed, her gaze fixed on a point beyond his shoulder. "I could perhaps translate." He scrutinized her, his expression inscrutable. Maria steeled herself for a sharp rebuke, for a dismissal that would send her scurrying. But it didn't materialize. Instead, he studied her, his eyes lingering on her averted gaze, her fidgeting hands. "Fluent, you say?" he finally inquired, his tone gentler than she had ever witnessed. She nodded, barely daring to breathe. "Ja, meneer. Completely fluent." He seized the phone, a spark of something resembling hope flickering in his eyes. He tapped out a number. "Here," he said, extending the receiver towards her. "Speak to her. Tell her, assure her I'm all right. Tell her I'm just preoccupied." Maria accepted the phone, her hand trembling almost imperceptibly. She pressed it to her ear. A woman's voice, rich with warmth and laced with apprehension, resonated through the line. "Cornelius? Is that you, John Jen? You sound so distant." Maria drew a deep breath and began to speak, the Dutch flowing from her tongue with a naturalness and assurance that even surprised her. "Oma Cornelius. This is Maria. Cornelius is here, but he's quite busy at the moment. He asked me to tell you that he's well, and he'll call you back as soon as he's free." A pause, then, "Maria? Who is this Maria? Is Cornelius well?" He sounded so agitated. Maria smiled, a small, comforting smile that she hoped traveled across the distance. "He's fine, Oma Annalise. Just a bit stressed. He sent his love, and he promises to ring you tomorrow after his meeting." She listened patiently as Oma Annalise, her voice now brimming with relief, detailed the events of her day. The cost of tulips at the market, the neighbor's cat's latest escapade, the fresh batch of stroopwafels she had baked this morning. Maria responded with appropriate murmurs of interest and concern, weaving a soothing tapestry of commonplace chatter. Finally, after what felt like an age, Oma Annalise sighed with contentment. "Thank you, Maria. You're a dear girl. Tell Cornelius to take care of himself, and to call his old Oma. It gets lonely here, you know." "I will, Oma Annalise," Maria answered softly. "You take care, too." She replaced the receiver and turned to face Mr. Vandergelt. His expression had transformed. The familiar glower had vanished, supplanted by an expression of quiet appreciation. He seemed younger, lighter. "Well?" he asked, his voice hushed. "She's well, Mr. Vandergelt," Maria replied. "Just lonely. She misses you." He nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the carpet. Yes, he murmured. I imagine she does. He looked up, his eyes connecting with hers. Thank you, Maria. I am grateful. The millionaire's request. The note was slipped under her door just as she was finishing her shift. A crisp, cream-colored rectangle, heavy with the Vandergelt family crest embossed in gold. Maria's heart did a clumsy little dance in her chest. Summoned. That was the word that echoed in her mind, amplified by the unnerving formality of the stationery. Summoned to Mr. Vandergelt's suite. Why? She reread the note, her brow furrowed. It simply stated, Mr. Vandergelt requests your presence in Suite 404 at 9 a.m. sharp. Please be punctual. No explanation, no pleasantries. Just an order. Maria felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. Had she done something wrong? Perhaps a misplaced towel, a missed speck of dust? She meticulously reviewed her cleaning routine in her head, searching for any possible infraction. She found none, but the unease persisted. Sleep offered little solace that night. She tossed and turned, the image of the opulent suite swirling in her mind, a stark contrast to her small, sparsely furnished room. The next morning, dressed in her neatest uniform, Maria stood before the imposing double doors of Suite 404. 9 o'clock sharp. She took a deep breath, smoothed down her apron, and pressed the doorbell. The door swung inward almost immediately, revealing Mr. Vandergelt himself. He was dressed in a tailored navy suit, his silver hair impeccably combed. He looked less rumpled than the previous evening, but the usual air of impatient authority was still firmly in place. De Vries, he acknowledged, his voice clipped. Come in. Maria stepped inside, her eyes widening slightly. The suite was even more extravagant than she had imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, the early morning sunlight glinting off the skyscrapers. A grand piano stood silently in one corner, draped in a silk shawl. The air hummed with quiet luxury. Please sit. Mr. Vandergelt gestured to a plush velvet armchair. He settled into a matching one opposite her, a low table separating them. On it sat a silver tray with 2 steaming cups of coffee and a plate of delicate pastries. Maria perched on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She felt acutely aware of her worn uniform and the contrast it made with the opulent surroundings. Mr. Vandergelt took a sip of his coffee, his gaze fixed on her. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken questions. Maria waited, her heart pounding in her ears. Finally, he spoke. Last night, I was impressed, Mr. Vries. Maria's eyes widened. Impressed, sir? Yes. Your Dutch is impeccable, and your composure under pressure was admirable. He paused, as if reluctant to offer praise. My Oma, she is important to me, and you calmed her. And me. He cleared his throat. I have a proposition for you, Mr. Vries. A business proposition. Maria blinked, completely taken aback. A business proposition, sir? Indeed. As you may know, my grandmother lives in Amsterdam. I need to travel there. Soon. But I have a complicated schedule. And my Dutch, well, it has become rusty. He grimaced. I require someone to accompany me. Someone fluent in Dutch, someone I can trust to handle communications, to translate, to generally smooth the way. He fixed her with a sharp look. Someone like you, Mr. Vries. Maria stared at him, speechless. You want me to go to Amsterdam with you, sir? Precisely. As my assistant. For the duration of the trip. All expenses paid, of course. And a generous bonus upon our return. He named a sum that made Maria's head spin. It was more than she earned in an entire year. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Amsterdam, with Mr. Vandergelt. It was an impossible, unbelievable dream. He watched her, his expression unreadable. Well, Mr. Vries, what do you say? Leaving comfort behind. The hotel stationery, stiff yet fragile, trembled in Maria's damp grip. Assistant. Amsterdam. The words blurred, obscuring the familiar floral pattern that papered her small sanctuary. She hugged the note close, the faint, clean scent of laundry, soap offering scant solace in the face of such unexpected news. "Ma," she called, her voice strained. Anna hurried in, wiping her hands, dusted with flour, on her apron. "What is it, darling? You look like you've seen a spook." Maria extended the note, her knuckles gleaming white. Taking it, Anna's brow creased as she deciphered the elegant handwriting. A prolonged silence followed, broken only by the methodical tick-tock of the hallway cuckoo clock. "Mr. Vandergelt wants you to what? Go to Amsterdam? As his assistant." Anna's tone sharpened with each word, disbelief vying with an emotion Maria couldn't quite place. "He said he found me impressive because of Oma Vandergelt and my Dutch. He needs someone trustworthy, he claims." Maria's response was barely audible. Anna sank onto the bed's edge, the aged springs groaning under her weight. "Trustworthy? You make beds, Maria. We aren't that sort of people." "I know, Ma. I thought the same. But the money, he mentioned it was generous. Enough to help keep the bakery afloat." The word bakery left a bitter taste. The carefully nurtured dream now seemed distant, vulnerable. Anna's gaze softened. The bakery. She'd poured her life into that aspiration, scrimping, toiling double shifts at the florist. It was their shared aspiration, a bright spot in their otherwise muted existence. He said it would be temporary, just until the deal concludes. Maria wrung her hands, the paper crackling softly. "I could learn so much, Ma. About business, about the world at large." Anna reached out, enclosing Maria's hand in her own. Her hands, etched with the marks of years of labor, felt reassuring. "Amsterdam, it's a sprawling city, a world away from here." "I know." Maria glanced around her small room, at the comforting clutter, the teetering stacks of cookbooks, the dog-eared copy of Anne Frank, the diary of a young girl, the canals of Amsterdam depicted in a postcard she'd cherished since childhood. This was her world, secure and predictable. And Mr. Vandergelt, he's not an easy man, Maria. I saw it in his eyes. Forever frowning, perpetually demanding. Anna's voice held a note of caution. Maria recalled his piercing stare, the impatient snap of his fingers at the bellboy. But she also recalled a subtle vulnerability, a solitude that clung to him like his costly aftershave. "He's lonely, Ma, I think." Anna sighed, pushing a hand through her salt and pepper hair. "Lonely or not, he's not our kind. This could alter you, Maria. For better or worse, I can't say." That night, slumber proved elusive. She thrashed, the pristine sheets feeling like a winding cloth. Amsterdam beckoned, a city of waterways and ancient streets, of culture and history. But it was also a city of hidden aspects, of hushed secrets. Was she strong enough to venture into that realm? She imagined herself behind the bakery counter, the warm fragrance of baked goods filling the air, the cheerful noise of patrons a soothing harmony. That was her sanctuary, her refuge. But the bakery felt as remote as the stars. The following morning, Maria spotted Mr. Vandergelt in the lobby, his characteristic impatience emanating from him. He was firing instructions into his phone, his expression severe. He ended the call abruptly as she approached. "Deberis, you've reached a decision, I trust." Maria swallowed, her throat suddenly constricted. "Yes, Mr. Vandergelt. I accept." A momentary flicker, relief, crossed his face, quickly replaced by his habitual sternness. "Good. Be prepared to depart in 2 hours. Pack efficiently, and for goodness sake, wear something suitable." As she turned away, a surge of exhilaration coursed through her, laced with a significant measure of dread. Amsterdam awaited. The bakery would have to defer. Amsterdam adventures. The taxi lurched to a halt, its tires kissing the cobblestones lining a canal, so picturesque it looked like a postcard come to life. Maria gasped, her breath fogging the window. Amsterdam. It smelled of damp earth, strong coffee, and something indefinably old. "Well, don't just sit there gawking, Maria. We haven't got all day," Mr. Vandergelt barked, already halfway out the door. She scrambled after him, nearly tripping over her suitcase. He ignored her, striding towards a stately canal house, its facade a symphony of gables and mullioned windows. The air was crisp, biting at her cheeks. She pulled her coat tighter, wishing she'd thought to bring a warmer scarf. Inside, the house was surprisingly modern. Sleek furniture sat on polished wooden floors, and abstract art hung on pristine white walls. A sharp contrast to the traditional exterior. Impressive, Maria said, more to herself than to Vandegelt. Indeed, he replied, tossing his briefcase onto a nearby table. This is my pied de terre. Now unpack. We have a meeting in 2 hours. The next 2 hours were a blur of frantic unpacking, ironing, and mentally preparing. Maria had never felt so out of her depth. She was used to cleaning toilets, not attending high-powered business meetings. Yet, here she was, smoothing down her simple black dress, trying to project an air of confidence she certainly didn't feel. The meeting was held in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the canal. Around the large table sat a group of impeccably dressed men and women, their faces etched with shrewd intelligence. Mr. Vandegelt introduced her simply as Maria, my assistant. No mention of her previous occupation. She offered a small, nervous smile. The conversation started in rapid-fire Dutch, peppered with technical jargon she barely understood. Mr. Vandegelt spoke with a curtness that bordered on rudeness, his brow furrowed in concentration. Maria found herself instinctively translating key phrases for him, clarifying points she knew he'd want to emphasize. To her surprise, her interventions were met with nods of approval from the others. One woman, with a severe hairstyle and piercing blue eyes, leaned forward. Your Dutch is excellent, Maria. Where did you learn it? My Oma taught me, Maria replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. She always said it was important to keep our heritage alive. The woman smiled, a rare and genuine expression that softened her features. Your Oma was a wise woman. As the meeting progressed, Maria's confidence grew. She anticipated Mr. Vandergelt's needs, seamlessly translating, taking notes, and even offering her own insights when asked. She noticed a subtle shift in his demeanor. He seemed less tense, less grumpy. He even offered her a fleeting, almost imperceptible nod of approval. After the meeting, Mr. Vandegelt surprised her again. We are visiting my Oma Anneliese tomorrow. She lives just outside the city. I haven't seen her in far too long. His tone was uncharacteristically subdued. The next day, they drove through the picturesque Dutch countryside, past fields of tulips and windmills silhouetted against the pale sky. Oma Anneliese lived in a small, cozy cottage, surrounded by a riot of colorful flowers. When they arrived, Oma Anneliese stood in the doorway, her face etched with worry lines. She was a tiny woman, barely reaching Mr. Vandergelt's shoulder, but her eyes sparkled with warmth and intelligence. Cornelius, she exclaimed, her voice trembling slightly. It's been too long. He embraced her awkwardly, a rare display of affection. Oma, this is Maria, my assistant. Oma Anneliese turned her gaze to Maria, her eyes twinkling. Ah, a breath of fresh air. Cornelius has been needing that for a long time. She took Maria's hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Come in. I've made a pell tart. Inside, the cottage was filled with the aroma of cinnamon and apples. Oma Anneliese fussed over them, pouring tea and urging them to eat. Maria listened as they spoke in Dutch, their conversation flowing easily. She learned that Oma Anneliese had been worried about Mr. Vandegelt, concerned about his loneliness and his relentless pursuit of business success. As they were leaving, Oma Anneliese took Maria aside. Thank you, she whispered. You have a good heart. He needs someone like you in his life. Back in Amsterdam, Mr. Vandegelt seemed changed. He was still demanding and impatient, but there was a newfound lightness in his eyes, a hint of vulnerability that Maria hadn't seen before. Did you enjoy meeting my Oma? He asked, as they walked along the canal. Very much, Maria replied. She's a wonderful woman. He paused, looking out at the shimmering water. She worries about me. She thinks I become too hard. Maria didn't say anything, but she understood. She saw the loneliness beneath his gruff exterior, the yearning for connection. and she knew, with a certainty that surprised her, that she could help him find it. Her Amsterdam adventure was just beginning. Deceit in the canals. Lisette de Haan rotated the snifter of amber liquid. The thrum of the canal boat engine a steady pulse against the chaotic drumbeat in her mind. The sinking sun burnished the brick buildings along the waterway, transforming them into fiery tapestries of coral and burgundy. Usually, she'd find solace in Amsterdam's postcard-perfect evenings. Tonight, the beauty felt like a taunt. Across from her, Peter, ever the stoic confidant, shifted uneasily. He recognized the signs, the taut line of her mouth, a stray tendril of raven hair escaping the severe knot at her neck, heralds of an approaching tempest. "The Vandergelt deal is practically done, Peter," she murmured, her voice laced with a deceptive calm. Practically. Peter's Adam's apple bobbed. The presentation was well received, Mevro. Everyone appeared quite taken. Lisette's laugh was a brittle sound, devoid of mirth. Admiration isn't enough. Vandergelt is a predator, Peter. He doesn't just admire. He consumes. And I refuse to be his prey. She leaned forward, her gaze intensifying in the fading light. Unearth something. Anything that will inject doubt into his mind about this agreement. Something personal. Peter, sensing the sudden drop in temperature, simply nodded. He'd witnessed Lisette's methods before. She possessed an unparalleled ingenuity. The following day, barely audible murmurs began to circulate. Maria first noticed them during her morning coffee run for Mr. Vandergelt and his retinue. A cluster of women, exquisitely attired and exuding practiced grace, lowered their voices as she approached. She caught fragmented phrases. Unprecedented, a cleaning woman, believe it? Vandergelt's taste has certainly broadened. The remarks pricked, despite her efforts to dismiss them as mere backbiting. Back at the office, an air of subtle frostiness permeated the atmosphere. Mr. Vandergelt's associates, previously cordial, now offered brief acknowledgments instead of engaging in pleasantries. Even Mr. Vandergelt himself seemed distant. He pounced on a trivial comma error in a report, a detail he would normally overlook. He stalked the office, muttering about deadlines and shortcomings, but avoiding direct eye contact. His customary playful jibes were replaced by a frigid, professional manner that sent a shiver down Maria's spine. During lunch, Oma Anneliese perceived Maria's unusual quietude. "Something weighs on your heart, little one," she observed, her voice thick with solicitude. Maria hesitated, unsure whether to burden the elder with her anxieties. Finally, she confessed, I believe people are gossiping about me, regarding how I obtained this position. Oma Anneliese natse, farpenet. Let them chatter. Envy is a sour potion. But tell me, Maria, what precisely are they saying?" Maria recounted the overheard snippets, the critical stares, the palpable shift in the office dynamic. Oma Anneliese listened keenly, her countenance growing increasingly grave. "This is more than mere chit-chat, Maria," she declared finally. "This is orchestrated." That evening, as Maria was preparing to leave, Mr. Vandergelt summoned her to his chambers. The room was dimly illuminated, the city sprawling outside the window, a shimmering constellation of lights. He stood with his back to her, his hands clasped behind him. "De Vries," he stated, his voice toneless. "I've heard rumors circulating." Maria's spirits plummeted. "Rumors, Mynheer?" He pivoted, his eyes narrowed in appraisal. "Rumors concerning your credentials, regarding your background, regarding your connection to me." A hot wave washed over Maria's face. "Mynheer, I assure you, the rumors are unfounded. I am dedicated to my duties, and my sole association with you is that of employer and employee." He scrutinized her intently, his expression enigmatic. "I require to know, De Vries, is there something you are withholding from me?" Maria met his gaze, her own unwavering in its intensity. "No, Mynheer, there is nothing." He prolonged his examination, as if searching for any telltale flicker of deception. Finally, he exhaled deeply and raked a hand through his already tousled hair. Very well. But heed this, De Vries. I demand fealty. I demand candor. And I will not suffer being played for a fool. He dismissed her with a curt nod. As Maria exited his office, she was unable to dispel the sensation that something had been irrevocably fractured. The nascent confidence, the fragile bond they had begun to cultivate, seemed to have evaporated, leaving behind a haunting unease. The canals of Amsterdam, usually so picturesque, now resembled inky pools, masking unseen menaces. Unmasking the truth. Sleep evaded Maria. The sting of Vandergelt's accusations still burned, even though she knew she'd spoken the truth. Yet, something felt unfinished, a loose thread she couldn't ignore. The whispers about her, fueled by Lizette's venom, needed to be silenced, not for Vandergelt, but for herself. She couldn't let this cloud her reputation, not after all the hard work she'd put in. The next morning, Maria arrived early, her mind already racing. She navigated the familiar corridors of the Vandergelt Corporation, but today they felt different, charged with a palpable tension. She bypassed her cleaning cart, heading straight for the break room. Her target, Jan, the jovial maintenance man. Jan knew everything. He was a walking, talking gossip mill, his information network more sophisticated than any corporate database. More importantly, Jan was Dutch, like her, and carried a deep-seated loyalty to those from the old country. Jan, Godemorgen, Maria greeted him, offering a warm smile. Jan, already halfway through a stroopwafel, beamed. Maria, wat leuk je te zien. What brings you here so early? Maria sat across from him, her voice low. I need your help. I need to know where these rumors about me and Mr. Vandergelt started. Jan's smile faltered. He knew Vandergelt was demanding. He'd heard snippets of conversations, seen the icy glares directed at anyone who dared to cross him. That's delicate, Maria. Very delicate. Maria persisted, explaining the situation, carefully omitting the details of her conversation with Vandergelt. She spoke of her family, her reputation, the damage these lies were causing. She appealed to his sense of fairness, his Dutch pride. Jan listened intently, his brow furrowed. Finally, he sighed. Lisette de Haan. I overheard her on the phone yesterday, talking about planting seeds and watching them grow. She was very pleased with herself. Maria's blood ran cold. Lisette. It all made sense now. The subtle digs, the knowing glances, the carefully orchestrated whispers. It was all a calculated attack, fueled by a potent mix of anger and determination. Maria marched towards Lizette's office. She didn't bother knocking. Lisette sat at her desk, impeccably dressed, a smug expression playing on her lips. She looked up, startled by Maria's sudden appearance. Maria, what a surprise. Come to offer your services? I hear Mr. Vandergelt is looking for a new. Maria cut her off, her voice sharp. I know it was you, Lisette. You started these rumors. Lisette feigned innocence, her eyes widening. Rumors? I have no idea what you're talking about. Jan heard you. He heard you on the phone. Don't insult my intelligence. Maria stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. Why, Lisette? Why would you do this? Lizette's facade crumbled. A flicker of pure malice flashed in her eyes. Vandergelt is mine. You should be doing business with my family, not some outsider, and certainly not someone like you. Maria felt a surge of disgust. This isn't about business, Lisette. This is about your own insecurities. You're so desperate for Vandergelt's attention that you're willing to destroy someone else's life to get it. Lisette scoffed. Destroy? Please. You're a hotel cleaner. What life are you talking about? Maria stood tall, her voice ringing with conviction. I'm more than what you see, Lisette, and I have more integrity in my little finger than you have in your entire being. She turned and walked out, leaving Lisette speechless. Maria went straight to Vandergelt's office, bypassing his secretary. She found him pacing behind his desk, his face etched with worry. Mr. Vandergelt, Maria announced, her voice steady. I know who started the rumors. It was Lisette de Haan. Jan overheard her planning it all. Vandergelt stopped pacing, his eyes narrowed. Lisette, why would she do that? Because she's trying to sabotage your deal, Maria explained, recounting her conversation with Lizette. She wants her family to get the contract instead. Vandergelt listened intently, his expression growing darker with each word. When she finished, he let out a low, guttural growl. That conniving. He grabbed the phone and barked orders to his secretary, summoning Lizette to his office immediately. Lizette arrived, her face pale, her carefully constructed composure shattered. Vandergelt unleashed his fury, his voice booming through the office. Maria stood silently by, watching Lizette squirm under his scathing reprimand. After Lizette was dismissed, Vandergelt turned to Maria, his expression softening slightly. I owe you an apology, Maria. I should have trusted you. He paused, his gaze meeting hers. Thank you. You saved this deal. Maria nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. It was the right thing to do, Mr. Vandergelt. He looked at her for a long moment, something akin to respect flickering in his eyes. You know, Maria, you have a certain tenacity, a resourcefulness I admire. He cleared his throat. Perhaps Amsterdam wouldn't be so bad with you by my side. A generous gift. I was wrong, Maria. Vandergelt conceded, the words grating like stones in his throat. He perched rigidly on the edge of the plush armchair, eyes glued to the intricate patterns of the Persian rug. The usually cheerful morning light, spilling into the hotel suite, instead seemed to amplify the deep furrows lining his face. Maria remained by the window, the Amsterdam Canal a shimmering ribbon below. She'd braced herself for an outburst, perhaps even a curt dismissal after her accusations the night before. An apology was the last thing she expected. Mr. Vandergelt, he stopped her with an impatient flick of his wrist. Please call me Cornelius. After everything, formality rings hollow. He finally lifted his gaze. The typically shrewd eyes now held a startling fragility. Lizette's actions were unforgivable. My ambition, the lure of a profitable deal, blinded my better judgment. I am indebted to you for uncovering the truth. Indebted. The concept felt as alien coming from Cornelius Vandergelt as finding water on Mars. I only did what was right, Maria replied, her voice still trembling slightly. A dry, mirthless chuckle escaped him. Right? A forgotten virtue in my circles. You possess a rare honesty, Maria, and a remarkable talent for exposing deceit. He paused, his manicured fingernail drumming a silent rhythm against his knee. Tell me, Maria, what do you truly desire? Maria hesitated. Her bakery, the dream she'd nurtured since childhood, a tapestry woven with the scent of baking bread and glistening pastries. But it was a dream perpetually just out of reach, chained to the constant struggle to pay her family's debts. To have my own bakery, she confessed, the words nearly swallowed by the room's silence. Vandergelt, Cornelius, gave a deliberate nod, as if weighing the significance of her aspiration. And what if I were to tell you that dream was within your grasp? Maria stared, her pulse accelerating. I don't understand. Indulge me, he said, a hint of his customary dominance creeping back in. I have a proposition. A venture, if you will. He rose and moved to the window, standing beside her. The air thickened with anticipation. I require an assistant, Maria, someone I can trust implicitly, someone with discernment. My current one, he winced, is being repositioned. We're traveling to Amsterdam next week, and I want you to accompany me. Amsterdam. Maria's mind reeled. The city of canals, of vibrant tulips, of untold possibilities. But my job here, consider it a leave of absence, Cornelius countered, his gaze fixed on the distant rooftops. I will, of course, offer a generous compensation, befitting your unique talents. And he turned, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that stole her breath. I will invest in your bakery. Maria's world swayed. Invest. As in capital. As in liberation from the crippling burden of debt. As in flower-dusted dawns and the intoxicating perfume of success. Invest, she echoed, her voice a mere breath. He nodded, a rare, almost bashful smile touching his lips. Consider it atonement. for my prior miscalculation, and perhaps a contribution to a future partnership. I believe your abilities extend far beyond domestic management, Maria. I see promise, a raw potential that deserves cultivation. He elaborated, sketching out his vision, a cutting-edge bakery, blending time-honored Dutch recipes with Maria's own inspired creations. He spoke of premium locations, inventive marketing, transforming her aspiration into a flourishing business. Maria could only gaze, speechless, as the enormity of his proposal crashed over her. Amsterdam, a legitimate bakery. Independence. It was almost too much to absorb. I don't know what to say, she stammered, tears pricking at her eyes. Say yes, Cornelius urged, his tone surprisingly soft. Say you'll come to Amsterdam. Say you'll allow me to help you realize your dream. Yes, she whispered, the word brimming with a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming elation. Yes, Cornelius. 1,000 times yes. He nodded, a faint smile gracing his features. Good. We depart next week. Pack your belongings, Maria. Your life is about to take a new course. De gelukkige Maria. The comforting aroma of yeast coaxed to life hung in the air, a promise of warmth and deliciousness. Croissants, burnished gold, beckoned from beneath the bakery's gentle lights, while the geometrically precise apple tart testified to Maria's blossoming artistry. No longer confined to her mother's cramped kitchen or the soul-crushing monotony of the hotel cafeteria, this was her domain. De gelukkige Maria. The happy Maria. A glance at the clock. 6 a.m. The grand opening loomed, mere hours away. A skittish excitement fluttered in her chest, a lively contrast to the serene joy burgeoning within. This was it, the culmination of years spent dreaming, of illicit baking sessions snatched after draining shifts, of Oma Annalise's constant faith, and, she couldn't deny, the unexpected benevolence of a curmudgeonly millionaire. Vandergelt. The thought still sparked a peculiar blend of bemusement and thankfulness. He'd honored his commitment, exceeding it even. The bakery itself was a dream. Understatedly elegant, infused with Delft blue touches and redolent of home. He'd even taken her by surprise, insisting on overseeing the design personally, an endeavor she deemed far beneath him. He dismissed it as a mere investment. But Maria had caught the briefest flash of something more in his gaze, a flicker of pride, perhaps even fondness. She banished the notion. He was simply a man who valued integrity and exceptional pastry. The chime of the entry bell yanked her back to the present. Oma Annalise, swathed in her thickest shawl, ambled in, her face a roadmap of delighted wrinkles. Maria, Liefch, she beamed, her voice brimming with emotion. It's more wonderful than I had envisioned. Oma Annalise's hug was a warm, solid anchor against Maria's rising anxieties. I couldn't have realized this dream without you, Oma, Maria choked out. All those years teaching me your secrets. Fiddlesticks, Oma Annalise chuckled, eyes twinkling. You possessed the magic touch all along. I merely guided you to it. She surveyed the painstakingly arranged pastries, the gleaming coffee station, the pristine counters. This is your heart's desire made real, Maria. Treasure it. The morning dissolved in a whirlwind of final touches. Maria arranged delicate macarons in a rainbow of pastels, tested the silken sheen of the chocolate ganache, and polished the display cases to a flawless gleam. The seductive aroma of baking intertwined with the crisp fragrance of lilies gracing each table, creating an inviting haven. Moments before the scheduled opening, a sleek ebony sedan glided to a halt outside. Maria's pulse quickened. Vandergelt. He was really here. He unfolded himself from the vehicle, appearing far less intimidating than her memory served. He was clad in a bespoke gray suit, yet the severe angles seemed to have softened. He even offered a subtle, almost hidden, smile as he approached the entrance. Oma Annalise, ever the astute observer, gently nudged Maria. Go, greet your benefactor, she murmured, a knowing spark in her eyes. Summoning her courage, Maria ventured outside. Mr. Vandergelt, she said, a genuine smile lighting her face. "Thank you for coming. I wouldn't have missed it," he responded, his tone surprisingly gentle. His gaze swept over the sign above the door. De Feluquije Maria, an apt appellation. He paused, then added, "I trust the delicacies live up to their promise." Maria laughed, a sound both light and liberated. "I believe they will. Oma Annalise's recipes are legendary." Together, they stepped inside the bakery. Mr. Vandergelt's eyes conducted a meticulous inventory of the space. He offered a slow nod, a gesture of approval that held more weight than any effusive declaration. The doors swung open, and a small tide of customers surged in. Neighbors, friends, and a smattering of intrigued tourists, all eager to sample Maria's confections. The bakery hummed with conversation, laughter, and the delicate clinking of porcelain. Maria labored tirelessly, welcoming patrons, fulfilling orders, and ensuring each pastry reached perfection. The earlier jitters had evaporated, replaced by a sense of serene determination. This was her realm, her passion, her dream given form. Later, as the throng subsided, Maria noticed Mr. Vandergelt seated at a small table by the window, savoring a cup of coffee and observing the scene. Oma Annalise was seated beside him, engaged in a surprisingly lively exchange. Maria approached them, her heart overflowing. "Thank you both," she said, her voice laced with gratitude. "For everything." Mr. Vandergelt looked up, his expression softening. "You earned this, Maria. You possess the conviction to stand for what's right and the talent to support it." He paused, then added, "And the stroopwafels are truly remarkable." Oma Annalise beamed with pride. "I told you she was exceptional." As Maria watched them, a wave of pure thankfulness surged through her. She had faced hardship, weathered betrayals, and battled self-doubt on countless occasions. Yet she had persisted, fueled by her passion and sustained by the steadfast belief of two unlikely allies. And now, she stood here, enveloped by the comforting scent of freshly baked bread, the warmth of human connection, and the delectable taste of achievement. She was, without a doubt, the Jalukij Maria.